So for those who have joined on time, thank you very much and welcome to this event. And we welcome you all to the Metaverse related event of PolyHack, and the purpose is to let everyone know about emerging technologies and their effect on the metaverse in a simplified manner. So we welcome our expert guests from all over the world with varied levels of experiences and various fields of specializations. We will welcome Mr. Emilios Iraklios from UK, Mr. Madhvendra Tiwari from India, Miss Nisa Mangalaparthi from England. All of them are expert guests in extended reality or XR. We welcome Miss Emily Ho and Mr. Ajay Rajnikant, both from Hong Kong, who are working in the field of NFT and blockchain, and they are our expert guests for today for NFT and blockchain. So let us introduce our guests in a bit more detail. So first we have Mr. Emilios Iraklios, who is currently the specialist XR recruiter and the co-founder of Immersive Search, where he provides exceptional XR talents to businesses all around the globe. Currently, his main focus is on addressing the skill gap in XR by building a global network of talent and connecting them to organizations which need these talents. Mr. Emilios is a senior recruitment professional who has a demonstrated track record of successfully delivering recruitment and retention solutions to a diverse range of clients, including industry and startups as well. Welcome, Mr. Emilios. Would you like to say hi to our audience?
Hi there, audience. Thank you so much, Swita, and the whole team at the Google Developer Student Club, and for the whole team behind PolyHack. It's an honor for us to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Emilios. Next, we have Mr. Madhvendra Tiwari, who is from India, and he is an IIT graduate from India working towards a mission of digitizing and preserving the heritage using cutting-edge technologies. He has worked in many technologies till now and started his career in advanced manufacturing in 3D printing in order to build AR, VR, and MR applications, integrating them with AI and cloud computing to create metaverse applications. He is also an aspiring entrepreneur. He's currently working as a product manager at Vizara Technologies and has a mission to create metaverse applications. Mr. Madhvendra, would you like to say hi to our audience?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the lovely explanation of my profile. It's good to be here among others for the beautiful discussion we're going to have. Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Madhvendra. Next, we have Miss Nisa Mangalaparthi. She's coming from England, and she's currently the program delivery lead for XR technologies for NHSX and has worked in healthcare for over 15 years. She has a demonstrated experience of 12 years working across academia, the voluntary sector, and NHS trust level before holding the posts at a national level. Ms. Nisa is a passionate professional about using digital technologies to deliver the best health services to improve the patient outcomes. Ms. Nisa, would you like to say hi to everyone?
Sure. Thank you for the introduction. Hello, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to join the panel today.
Thank you, Ms. Nisa. Our next guest is an expert in NFT and blockchain, Miss Emily Ho. She's the marketing director at Leprechaun, where they are focused on creating social gaming experiences which are compatible with blockchain. She comes from a background in TV content acquisition and media. and is passionate about Web3 and entertainment intersection. She is also involved in several NFT projects with art and whiskey. Miss Emily, would you like to say hi to our audience?
Hi everyone, thanks for having me. Always love students from PolyU. We work with a lot of them, so good to see you or not see you guys, but glad to speak today.
Thank you, definitely. Thank you. Our next guest is Mr. Ajay Rajnikant, who is based in Hong Kong currently. He is a software engineer at crypto.com. He has graduated from the City University of Hong Kong at the top of his class. He is a CCMF grantee and MIT Entrepreneurship and FinTech Integrator winner as well. He is building Solario NFT project at the intersection of Web3 and renewable energy. Mr. Ajay, would you like to say hello to everyone?
Thank you very much for the warm introduction, Sweta. Hi, everybody. It's great to be in this panel with such interesting people. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And I guess thanks to the GD Google Developers Student Club and PolyHack team.
Thank you very much. So this was just a brief introduction of all the guests. Now we would like to know more about the guests. So could you go to next slide? So we would like to know more about your work experience and whatever your companies are aiming now, and what are the problems that you want to solve using emerging technologies and the metaverse. So starting with Mr. Emilios, would you like to start?
Yes. So yeah, I'm a co-founder and recruiter at Immersive Search. We are an AR/VR talent agency, and our mission is to help people find work opportunities globally in the AR/VR field and support professionals who want to upskill via our training partners, and work with educational institutions to try and create clear pathways for students to enter the industry. Of course, it's a challenge because there isn't a real universal language for what roles look like or defined guidelines for how the technologies are designed or developed. But we feel that with our experience so far in this marketplace and our network, we're able to slowly add value where we can. Types of roles we typically place are software developers, software engineers, technical artists, 3D artists, and UX professionals.
Thank you, Mr. Emilios. So glad to know that you are on an effort to create a network of XR professionals and those who will need XR and the metaverse for the future development of the companies. Thank you very much. Our next guest, who would like to go next? Instead of me ordering, so who would like to go next?
I can go, yeah.
Yes, Mr. Vadhendra, please.
Yeah, so thanks, Shweta. So we started in 2016 before the Meta came. So we work in a digital heritage space. We have digitized more than 70 monuments in India. These are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. When people started to digitize these monuments, they just capture the data in 2D and 3D, 2D videos and photos. We went beyond 2D capturing. We have captured data in LiDAR and 360-degree images and videos. And other than that, geotechnical investigation that used to be done for the monument site, we have created a metaverse application for experiencing these monuments, our history and culture and everything, our tangible culture and intangible culture. We have built multiple applications around focusing on a monument and building a complete ecosystem, how employment opportunity creates around the monument, around our history. So we started in 2016 and we have globally showcased our products. So recently in Expo 2020 Dubai, we were featured for 6 months. So in India Pavilion, we have on the first floor our complete products were displayed for a duration of 6 months, where we have 3D printed replicas along with the augmented reality applications. So each monument has its own essence in terms of they can speak to the audience. They can say much more about their historical past and everything. So we have created AR and VR apps for the monuments. So these were displayed. And currently we are focusing on creating metaverse on museums. So we have completely digitized the state museums of in India, and we are working with lots of academic backgrounds. So you can say our CEOs and mentors are from IIT Delhi, IIT Jodhpur, and IIT Bombay. We have lots of board members from EPFL, Switzerland, and other universities. So our mission is to digitize complete heritage and have an option to immerse into our past and learn about these historical kind of intangible culture we had. Yeah, that's.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting to hear. Metaverse for preservation of cultural heritage, and this is quite an achievement to be featured in the Dubai Expo, and to give a message to people that yes, you can use metaverse apart from just games for preservation of cultural heritage, and it's quite an interesting mission. Thank you, Mr. Madhvendra. Next, Miss Emily, Mr. Ajay, Miss Nisa. Any of you would like to go next?
Happy to go next. So as Sweta mentioned, I work in England's National Health Service. And for those of you that don't know much about this, it was established in the late 1940s, and it's actually funded by the people in the UK. So what it means is we've got about 1.5 million interactions with patients a day. And it means that for these patients that are interacting with the NHS health service, the services are largely free. And what the amazing thing is that actually in terms of the world, we are actually leading in terms of equal access. So we're making sure that people don't suffer any financial hardship because they're ill. So in the past few years, obviously the pandemic has added a lot of pressure to our healthcare service. And the team that I belong to in the NHS is specifically looking at how digital technologies can be used to improve how productive our healthcare services are. So this includes both the more established technologies such as robotic process automation, but also some of the emerging technologies such as extended reality. The goal is really to identify, evaluate, test, and scale the tech that has the potential to improve things like patient outcomes, like patient and staff experiences, things that allow our services to be run in better and cheaper ways. So more cost effective as well. And with XR, we're really at the early stages of this work.
Thank you very much for the further explanation. I did take a course in university last summer about the same, understanding the patient outcomes, and although it's an interesting subject, but I believe that it has a lot of dimensions. And when it comes to technology, and very glad to hear that that NHS is taking the initiative to use XR to improve the patient outcomes. Thank you very much for the explanation. Mr. Emily or Mr. Ajay, who would like to
go next?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I guess being the youngest one of all the panelists, I have a lot of university experience that I started with that explored blockchain for me. It kind of started with just going to a blockchain meetup in Hong Kong, learning more about Bitcoin, how to create a wallet, how to transact, what other currencies were there, how do you transfer, how do you convert. And it just built on top of that. I did an internship in a blockchain company in Hong Kong. And I got an internship at this really interesting capsule hotel called Sleep. And we are currently working on how we can convert their locations into real estate NFTs and send make NFTs out of sleep report data that the capsule itself generates, things like that. It's all just really coming up in the last couple of years, and it's a lot more interesting in that the roadmap hasn't been built yet. It's like nobody exactly knows what the exact outcomes are. It's like the problem that it's solving is that it's trying to put back so blockchain basically solves problems of ownership in the internet, and it ends up putting back control of your own data, of your own actions back into the user. This entire revolution that's been built up is called Web3, and it still has a long way to go. People are comparing it to how the internet started out in the 90s, and the giants that ended up staying and braving through the market movements today are world leaders. So that's the kind of effect people are expecting. And crypto.com as such is also very bullish on this idea of an equitable internet. They're building a lot of NFT marketplaces, non-custodial wallets, just trying to get cryptocurrency into the hands of every person in the world, I guess. Yeah, that's about it.
Thank you for the explanation. Yes, certainly you are the youngest in the panel, and it's quite impressive that you have had um, quite a good experience on blockchain development, and it is quite new to hear how blockchain can help to actually record the location as you described in the capsule hotel, and we look forward to it. And just like in the 90s you said, it was a prediction that internet will go big. We hope that that blockchain will also have that kind of impact. Thank you again. And Miss Emily, would you like to speak now?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Emily. I come from more of an entertainment background, as was shared. So my interest has always been in how entertainment and technology interacts. And I guess currently at Leprechaun, we are focused on gaming and how gaming and blockchain interacts and how that future could look. Obviously, you may have heard a lot about blockchain games and games on blockchain, but at Leprechaun, we're really focused on how do you keep really awesome and fun games, but incorporate blockchain in a way that just makes sense and doesn't require you to do a lot of the additional unmass friendly onboarding. So that's what we're focused on looking at, and through developing games, consulting other game studios to get onto blockchain. We've also been developing our own utility tools on blockchain to solve things that haven't really previously existed and been available for game studios. So for example, we created batch minting for NFTs, or like a tool that you can move basically any and all multiple digital assets from one wallet to another. So yeah, we're kind of just developing the space and trying to make awesome games, but also help others make awesome games on blockchain.
Thank you, Miss Emily. That's quite interesting to hear. You are not just making games, but also creating the platform so that others can also create the games. And we will come to the points that how you use blockchain in games, because that's something very new, and we will definitely ask you in the further questions, which is quite interesting to hear blockchain in games. So thank you again. Thank you, guests, for talking about your work experiences and companies. Now, the next question is to know more about your views on certain things which we believe the best. So starting with Mr. Emilios. Hans, next. Thank you. So Mr. Emilios, how would you describe the situation of emerging technology like XR in Europe, its major benefits that it has brought or it will bring, and how do you think this will expand to elsewhere? Because usually the inspiration of innovation, technology always comes from the West. And how do the companies utilize XR for their benefits if they use it for metaverse as well? You may describe about any of your clients.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. Sure. So on the first point, the XR scene for Europe, I've just taken some notes for a research paper I was looking over. So if we're looking at just a short summary of Europe, the UK has more AR VR sorry, I'm counting the UK as part of Europe, so we're no longer in the EU. But anyway, if we're saying Europe, Germany has approximately 100, 110 startups. UK has approximately 160, okay? Spain is third sort of in that list with around 70, 75, okay? The most popular vertical tends to be 3D tools. And when I say 3D tools, a lot of the companies offering that solution will offer an augmented reality SDK incorporated as well. Enterprise and startups. The majority of startups are B2B. List of verticals include, agency, client services, studio, healthcare, education, user input, hardware, real estate, content distribution, media, reality capture, retail, e-commerce, location-based VR, sports, music, live events, advertising, social XR, tourism, and AR SDK. Now, how do our clients use it? So if we're talking specific use cases, education VR, VR being used for open day tours. So it gives students the ability to experience the university atmosphere without leaving their home, which is handy, especially in this climate, and it's good for students who want to relocate. VR for hands-on learning. So it promotes hands-on learning through experience rather than theory. So it allows universities to put students in real-life situations to teach them practical skills, which of course is so important. And VR is also being used for virtual field trips. So it makes global trips accessible. You're able to explore AR objects. I really highly recommend checking out Google. They've developed expeditions. If you check out expeditions, you've got about 1,000 AR VR tools there. It's really cool. Now, AR in education. So I ran through VR, AR in education. It's increasing engagements, it's reducing cognitive loads, it's improving academic performance, and it's enhancing the learning experience. Several areas such as reading, working with numbers, spatial concepts, playing, content creation, and real life environments and scenarios. The good thing about AR is there's minimal setup really. You need an internet connection, mobile devices, AR apps, and triggers or markers. In this current climate, not everyone has accessibility for VR headsets. They're quite expensive, and not everyone can, wear them. I don't know. Sometimes I get sickness through certain activities, so I can only wear them for short periods of time. Another example we can use is healthcare. How some of our clients are using AR in healthcare. Could be AR being used in surgery, virtual collaboration between physics with AR, augmented reality showing defibrillators. Sorry if I've pronounced that wrong, by the way. Nearby.
That's fine. No problem.
Yeah, and saving lives. It helps patients to describe symptoms better. People, surgeons are using the HoloLens to help with the study of anatomy. AR can help patients to describe symptoms better. So that's some use cases, certainly. Now, if we're talking specifically metaverse use cases as well, I just want to add to that, then we look at that as 7 layers. So some of our clients are incorporating projects within the 7 layers. Layer 1 being experience, so games, social esports, theatre, shopping. Layer 2, discovery, so that's ad networks, social creation, rating, stores and agents. Then you've got the creator economy, so you've got design tools, asset markets, workflow and commerce. You've then got spatial computing, which is 3D engines, VR, AR, XR, multitasking, geospatial mapping. And you've got decentralization, which is edge computing, AI agents, microservices, blockchain, human interface, which is mobile, smart glasses, wearables, haptic, gestures, voice and neural networks, and then infrastructure, which connects everything together, 5G, Wi-Fi, 6G, cloud, etc. So I hope that wasn't too much information.
I think that was quite useful because I think most of our audience is from Hong Kong, and we are well versed. I mean, we always come across fintech, finance, everything related to that. And since the hype of metaverse, we are starting to know this little by little. And this is actually very, very useful. And I think you have given lots of examples, and there are so many sectors across which the startups and the companies in Europe are working on, and that was quite new to hear. And the layers of metaverse especially, usually we do not have a clear concept of metaverse. I think that's really useful when you explain the different layers of metaverse. Thank you. Sorry.
I was just going to add as well the 7 rules of the metaverse by Tony Parisi at Unity. Sure. Rule 1, there's only one metaverse. Rule 2, the metaverse is for everyone. Rule 3, nobody controls the metaverse. Rule 4, the metaverse is open. Rule 5, the metaverse is hardware dependent. Rule 6, the metaverse is a network. Number 7, the metaverse is the internet.
Wow, the first 2 rules are a bit confusing, but the other rules are very much clear. Thank you very much. I will make sure to look at these concepts as well. Thank you very much for the simpler explanations of these and a clearer explanation. Thank you. And the next question is to Mr. Madhvendra. So, Mr. Madhvendra, as you have been working in India and based there, so I have a question that India is a big tech hub for the world for a long time, and the nation produces many tech talents who are serving at different levels around the world, from junior level to CEOs, with some of the major innovations being done by Indian engineers in India and also in other nations as well. So how do you think is the position of India in terms of producing talents in XR and metaverse space? How do you think the position is in Asia or maybe around the world? And do you think that startups or the big companies is it the startup or the big companies which are doing better, and or they should collaborate to make things better?
Thanks, Shweta. I got these questions. Let's start with this XR industry. So the problem with this industry is that the most of the research was done by non-academic people. The industry led this research. Before this XR, before this AR, MR, and VR, people used to do the research in their academia, and then they translate that research into applications in the industries. For this XR industry, what happened is the research was done by industries, and the academia people wake up late after a while. So that's where the demand and supply got disturbed. So India was a tech hub and is a tech hub. There are 2 aspects. One is a big company and startup supporting the talent, we can produce more talents in India. One is government initiatives. So in India, we have multiple initiatives under Government of India. We have hubs all over the India, and one of the IITs is AR, VR, and MR focused. So lots of the funds were given to that IIT to produce talents and to produce curriculum framework to create courses in and masters and PhD students in that area, in that specialization. And lots of money was distributed along around the schools to create AR VR labs, artificial intelligence labs. So the initiatives were taken by the government, and we are now seeing the growth in India. Lots of talents are coming out, and yes, there is a time and there is a mismatch between supply and demand, but soon it will be fulfilled. And I
Thank
believe
you, sir.
startups are also participating in that. The government has decided these hubs to be, any startup can associate with these hubs, any academia, any IITs, and institutes, and they can have projects running around these institutes. So students can learn with the industry, and professor can do some kind of research, and government will finance the hardware parts that these are costly. So the involvement from the government and the startup supporting these technologies know-how is creating an impact. And now we are seeing a growth in the talents. Number of talents are growing day by day in India.
So here you have made a point about the support from the government as well in funding the institutions, because that is the first place where a person starts his or her education to find a profession. And I think that institutions are the best place where you have the access and support to resources, so that you can get inspiration to make a certain field as your job as well. So I think that's a very good initiative. And as you said, yeah, there is a gap in supply and demand, but through training, maybe just as the nation is producing software engineers, so the nation may also produce more and more number of AR engineers, AR developers, and hope to see that, and hope to see what comes. And very glad to hear that governments are supporting institutions and startups especially are taking part. Thank you very much.
You are mute, Sweta. You are mute, I guess.
Oh, I'm really sorry. Um, so, Miss Emily Ho, I have seen from LinkedIn that there are many startups coming up, and through other news also that there are many startups coming up in Hong Kong, and the time period is very interesting, where the metaverse startups and spin-offs of some unicorns are coming up, which want to create their own metaverse or gamified blockchain technologies. And people are slowly starting to understand the trend and to get inside the race or the trend, whatever you say. So what do you think is are the benefits, or in which direction is this trend of gamification in blockchain and NFT going? And in future, how do you think that the interests of Hong Kongers will change towards gaming?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Unfortunately, I don't know what the future will hold, but at least currently, there's a lot of very interesting and positive signs. I think someone earlier, it might be AJ, you brought up about, ownership, and I think that's the biggest part that blockchain offers for games. It's the idea that you, all the time and all the money maybe you spent on a game, what you've earned or what you've acquired, what you've bought actually belongs to you, and you can retrade that for money. So I think that's here to stay. The hot topic, I think now in GameFi, so to speak, which is like game and finance, which is kind of the term we refer to for games in blockchain or gamification, because the essential defining marker of, I guess, the difference about games that use blockchain right now, at least is definitely in the economy of it. The interesting part is really actually due to technology. One, I think for NFTs to be of value in games and the future of where games are heading, as well as Metaverse, NFTs have to really be able to be interoperable. There's so many different blockchains. Like if there's one great game on one chain and a great game on the other, it's kind of sad, right? That I'm owning this NFT that usually is bought for a lot of money and a lot of time, and I can't use it in the other game. And also, I mean, on that note, definitely the interoperability and smoothness of the experience of gameplay is huge. Even this today, I had a conversation with some game developers in Thailand, and we're talking about we're still confined by, like, if we want to go mobile gaming, which is actually the largest gaming sector in Hong Kong, as well as I'm sure many places, we have to still separate the game that we put on mobile and then the game experience we put in web, which is where the blockchain interaction actually happens. So a lot of these different things are definitely being explored and still needs a lot of time to really make good. What's most interesting, I would say, about Hong Kong specifically is that traditionally as a market, it is terrible for player retention. Hong Kong people have very short attention span. They'll play a game for 5 seconds or one day, get their kung to, maybe, I don't know, extra NFT, and then the next day they're gone. And that's the hardest part for games, right? We got to make money. We got to keep our players. We want to keep our community. So in terms of a trend in Hong Kong, I think among game studios, we want to really capitalize on the incentivization of money to keep players. And it sounds crazy because no one thinks it's cool to be playing for money, but the truth is that might be the best way, as we've seen with recent apps, like even the gamification of moving, right? You probably heard of step in, which is like the more steps you take, the more money you make, and then you're competing with other people. So yeah, I mean, the incentivization, I think, is going to be a big thing in Hong Kong, and how it changes the way we perceive gamification in blockchain and NFT. We're motivated by money here. You know, gaming is not traditionally looked well upon, and even for esports, it's hard. It's hard to find esports players in Hong Kong because we're never told growing up that playing games is a productive use of our time. So now if you're, if a 14-year-old is playing a lot of games and through the games they're making more money to pay off their own college fee, I don't think anyone's going to say anything. And that's going to be, I think, a trend definitely moving forward in how the public relates to or interacts with gamification in blockchain and NFT. I think to your point about Metaverse, there's a lot of positive development in Hong Kong. You guys might have heard of it. I mean, we do have headquartered here a lot of great companies, and they're all doing great stuff in the Metaverse. Even recently, there's the investment into building out a Hong Kong in sandbox. And that's quite interesting because I think the major separation between metaverses and how we've in the gaming world experienced MMORPG has to be in the way that the metaverse is open and it provides additional social opportunities, interactions, So, I mean, just to close out as well, I do want to make this distinction because coming from the game industry perspective, actually blockchain and NFT is very much frowned upon by the hardcore gamers, and most large companies that are thick in the traditional gaming space like Ubisoft or Square Enix have received terrible backlash from gamers for wanting to look into blockchain and NFT. And that's why I think, especially in this early stage when blockchain, the technology, the tokenomics, all of that is still being worked out, a lot of larger game companies will be very careful in how they implement NFTs and blockchain, because we can't just put out something that will make players feel even more ostracized from what's happening now.
Thank you, Miss Emily. I now get the purpose that a trick to a successful game will be having currency rewards, that the more they play, the more they can earn. I think that's a really good strategy. And yes, the user interfaces are currently different. Some games are good for mobile, but for NFT and blockchain games, maybe they are just the best on web browser. And for the interest, I understand from you that big companies have to be really careful when they implement blockchain and NFT. And this is a very nascent stage, because of which I understand from your statements that there are lots of experimentation and conclusions that you have told. So it's a very interesting time, and we just hope that it goes in a better way so that both the players and the companies can benefit.
Yes. So I mean, just the last note, I will say it's a very, very hot thing right now to be an XR developer in Hong Kong.
Yes.
As is all over the world. So last note on game trends here.
Yes, absolutely. But I think the metaverse hype will certainly help us in any way. Thank you, Miss Emily, for your points. And my next question is to Mr. Ajay. So, Mr. Ajay, blockchain is predicted to have a huge contribution to the metaverse, and Hong Kong being a finance hub, it's already becoming more famous among the people, and around the world as well. It is gaining importance. So what do you think that the main aim of the blockchain companies is nowadays, and if metaverse is a priority, and also how will blockchain bring a change in the user behavior?
So I'll start with the first question. Right now, blockchain companies and cryptocurrency companies around the world are really focused on this idea of what's called Web 3.0, or the idea that, like I mentioned, the ownership of data and the ownership of your actions belongs to you rather than multinational corporations around the world. They don't go to servers that Google or Amazon has. It belongs to you on the blockchain, and it's open for everybody. So that creates a lot of interesting scenarios, both good and bad. So that's what companies are tackling at this point. So we still don't, there is still a lot of problems in the space that need to be solved, and companies are looking to tackle on and solve these problems. NFTs are just one byproduct of what blockchains are capable of. There's also DeFi, GameFi, DAOs, and so on. And NFTs, I guess, play a big part on how metaverse, I mean, that's the major impact of blockchain on the metaverse, I guess. Building the tokenomics around it and all of that also comes part of decentralized finance or DeFi. So the fact is, if you're asking if it's a priority, if blockchains are being built or being focused on just to build the metaverse, I would say no. Most chains, Ethereum, Solana, most of the popular chains, people are building all sorts of different applications on them, and metaverse is also one of them. Obviously, you guys have heard of Decentraland and Sandbox, and Portals is also a really up and coming NFT project on the Solana chain that lets you build like a room for yourself and move around, talk to people, build an entire city called the downtown, and you get to interact with everybody. You basically take control over how your space looks and how you'd like people to interact with you. Anything specifically? I guess companies like Animoca brands in Hong Kong, the people who built the Sandbox, they've been building games like these since the beginning that take an existing part of reality, something like, say, Formula One or MotoGP that fans around the world enjoy, and bringing that experience from just consuming the sport into like playing a part of the sport yourself. You can buy their cars, you can buy their bikes, you can buy a particular driver, and you can use them, you can combine them, and you can start playing. There are games like Zed Run where you buy horses, you buy virtual horses, and you run horse races. There are games like Axie Infinity. Axie Infinity is another huge trend right now, I guess, it combines parts of metaverse, and it's basically GameFi, but they could end up taking that into their own whole metaverse that you can interact with in virtual reality or XR. What's interesting about NFTs is that their entire features is based on the attributes that they get. You have the general PFP kind of NFT that is just, say, a Board API Art Club, or quite recently, I guess, OK Baz on Solana, things like those. But what's interesting about those is that each of them have specific attributes that you can leverage on. So one NFT on Ethereum can be used in multiple games across Ethereum. So you have a Board API Art Club that was created by BAYC, but can be used in another game that maybe Miss Emily is developing. You can use the attributes, you can convert them into specific traits that belong, that make sense in their particular game. There's an NFT marketplace called Fractal that released basically just fractals, pictures of fractals on different colors and different sizes that have a particular bunch of traits. And those fractals, you can just plug them into any game at any point and start building, using their traits to like specify specific characteristics that are inherent to the game. I think that's the impact that blockchain can have on the metaverse. It can, again, I'm not talking, I think Emilio clearly explained that metaverse is open, has to be for everybody. And the vision that Facebook brought, or Meta brought over, was not that anymore. It's, but I think the idea is kind of similar. You get to interact with people. You're not limited by boundaries. You take ownership of everything that's happening to you, and you have complete control over your actions. How many that change the whole user behavior? So right now it's still in the process. User experience in Web3 right now is very different compared to Web2. You can't just have a one-click Google login anymore. You need to create a wallet. You need to authorize every transaction. Every time you try to do something, the web page just shifts, opens up a new screen, and asks you to confirm transactions. It's not 100% non-technical. Like, most layman users will kind of struggle to understand what's happening. There are a lot of easily available phishing scams that they can fall prey to. So user behavior will have to evolve a little bit, but I think companies around the world are trying to change this UX to make it feel more the same as any other normal website, so that they can understand what's happening. They can just continue along with what's happening, but in the back end, it's not private servers, it's not or the general API that you're being called to, but instead it's a blockchain, and data is being stored on the blockchain, and you're interacting with the blockchain. Yeah, I don't think user behavior as such will change a lot, but in terms of interacting with these applications, what user behavior will change is things like people starting to earn money right off of walking, like Ms. Emily mentioned. Step-in is a big trend right now. People just buy NFT shoes, they walk a couple of hours, not a couple of hours, just a couple of minutes, and they earn about, I think about 500 HKD a week or something like that. And people are good with that. Though any of these, another major part of this current unstable ecosystem is that any of these projects just vanish overnight. But yeah, I guess that's the process of how you build great companies. Yeah, that's about it.
Thank you for all this, all the thoughts from your side. What I understand is the mission the metaverse had created was to connect everyone, and possibly people having their own ownership, which can be possible by the implementation of blockchain. And from your answers, I understand that the user behavior will be changed in a way that user will not understand what is in the back end, like you said, that there is no there is no AWS server in the backend, but rather a blockchain with which the user is interacting, and and the aim is to make the user understand the things very clearly, just as they are interacting with the website, and the user will take time now to understand what the blockchain is. And I think maybe from your answers, I think maybe another change can be when they play these games that you have mentioned, like owning a horse on a blockchain, like that. So maybe user will want to experiment certain different things that are built on the blockchain. That's quite interesting to hear that apart from just fintech, we are hearing more things. Thank you very much.
I think one last point
Yeah,
I'd like to add
yes,
is
sure.
about movies. I think
Oh,
in India right now, a lot of people, at least a lot of movie studios are being very bullish on NFTs and how they can build more interactions and engagements with fans. They sell a lot of movie NFTs. They give private access to meeting with the cast or posters or special autographs and things like that. So yeah, that's also, I guess, another metaverse on its own with your favorite movie characters. And that's also why it's trending right now.
that's quite interesting to hear, movies and blockchain. I think if this is spread more to the audience, then the audience will start to understand the blockchain even more, because movies is something that everyone consumes. That's quite interesting to hear. Thank you for this answer. My next question is to Miss Nisa. So, Miss Nisa, you have worked in academia and workforce both. What is the difference that you notice in the XR development and the approach to solving the problem in between academia and the real workforce? And how ready is the healthcare sector actually to use XR if XR is receiving more support by the professionals or more resistance?
Two really great questions. The second one is an absolute massive, it's a massive question. So in terms of that first one around the difference between academia and research and industry, actually there are a lot of similarities. So they all sort of generally tend to go through similar processes where you've got the research phase and you're looking at the proof of concept, you've got the development stage where you've built the prototype and you're validating it in different types of environments. And then you've got the deployment stage where you are looking at piloting it in the real world, evaluating it, and then that's where you've got the spread and sustain. And I guess in terms of within the healthcare system itself, it's that last stage where we're looking more at the pilot, the spreading, and the scaling across the country as well. So in terms of that, there are a lot of rules and regulations that apply. And I think that is the core difference. You still have your things like ethics approval and all the other kind of research processes that you need to go through. But to actually apply it within a massive kind of healthcare system, you need a substantial amount of evidence. And it's not just evidence, it's other things, other factors come into play around policies and regulations. So the environment that you're operating in, how do we make sure that if XR is being used within the healthcare, that it meets clinical safety standards, that it meets technology standards and service design standards? Then you've got things like data and privacy. And actually what Ajay mentioned about blockchain becomes really interesting there, because if patients can own their own data within a virtual world, what does that mean for healthcare? How does that transform the way that it interacts, not just as part of their healthcare journey, but for example, if they are going through a clinical trial and they're testing information and actually there's a whole host of research information that comes out of it, what can they do with it? And what does it mean for them if it's protected and if it's their own asset? So there's a lot of factors here. In in terms of that transition between the research phase and then bringing it into industry. All the different regulations that it needs to comply with. One of the things which I don't know whether we've necessarily talked about is the usability of the technology at the moment. So XR has come a long way. There are so many different types of tech. It's been used across lots of different types of industries, but actually, is the usability there? And does it matter? So if we think about way back when we used to, I don't know if some of you guys will remember, but using floppy disks or even USB sticks, and actually now we're on cloud storage. So the transition is, oh, thank you, Amelia, it's very kind. But the transition between them is phenomenal. And so I think, although there are lots of principles about at the moment, one of the key things to remember is that we shouldn't be limited by what we can see now. Absolutely. We need to know and address some of those pain points that we're thinking about. So what are the real problems within, from my example, within the healthcare sector? What are those user need problems? What are the issues that staff are facing within hospitals, within GP surgeries? Or what are patients feeling they need more of? Is it patient information, things like that? So how can we really maximize the potential that XR brings to solve those problems? Because if we're not meeting a problem, we can't justify, as a public service, we can't justify spending money if there's no return on investment, if we're not seeing that impact. So in terms of the healthcare and where we're up to, actually, the healthcare system in the UK has been using XR for a number of years. There are some that date back to 5 years. But what we've seen is in the past 2 years is really where we've seen an increase in the numbers that are using it. And there's more and more using it, partly because of the pandemic, because it's capitalized on the capabilities of XR to remotely connect, to provide more precision in terms of visualizing, but also I think Emilius mentioned, he mentioned surgeries, and actually the ability to overlay images and really do precision surgery has a lot of impact in terms of patient safety and the outcomes that they then have if surgeries, for example, are a little bit less complex. So where are we with healthcare and XR? Well, as I mentioned, there are an increasing number of organizations, so hospitals, GP surgeries, community services using XR more and more. But actually, in terms of how it's controlled at a national level, at a governmental level, there are a lot of challenges there that we need to look at and address. So we are currently in a stage where we're exploring that. We're looking at what those policies look like, what the legislation looks like, and what the regulation looks like. And the regulation then feeds into the design of the development. So this isn't a journey that we're taking on our own. We are working and collaborating with researchers, with developers, with suppliers, with other providers, that whole XR ecosystem, to think how can we make sure that the way that XR is applied is focused? How can we prove it to show that it's got the impact? How can we make sure that it's being used effectively, but also safely as well? And if we look at some of the policies that exist today, for example, around data and privacy, they're not really fit for standard. If we're thinking about things like biometric data and the vast amount that you can get from some of the XR technology types, it's not even penetrating, it's not even getting through to regulating and controlling those in a safe way. So actually there is a whole host of work to do around that and to shape that as well. So the healthcare sector is very, very willing to use XR, but there are lots of challenges that we need to work through.
Okay, that was quite informational to hear how from academia to actual workforce is the journey of implementing some XR solution that although it is being researched, but other factors should also be taken care of, like the patient outcomes, and if it's actually benefiting, so that the application can get more support and funding. And it is very great to hear that the place you are working at and the country where you are working at, there they are willing to adapt to these technologies and use it, but due to the pre-existing policies, maybe the policies may be a challenge, and because of those policies, I think one may need to look around other things like data privacy and everything. But it's quite interesting to hear how it goes from academia to actual workforce, and how one should deal with policies when bringing out a solution. And hopefully this becomes hopefully this becomes successful at first, and hopefully other countries can also take inspiration to use that practically at their workforce as well, in healthcare. Thank you very much. That was quite new to hear for me as well. Um, so since we had quite a good amount of information and the insights from the guests that we have heard from them about their own opinions or their own experiences outside of their companies, around them, or what they feel um, about their own work or about the work of other companies. Now it is time to dive in more about what they think about the current some of the current existing solutions, like what are some of the solutions that you would appreciate that the industry experts have already discovered in emerging technologies, and in the metaverse, which is already existing, not under development, but already existing. And what are some of the products which you think are very successful? So about the current products, uh, would you like to say something for all the guests?
I guess I can go first.
Sure, sir.
So things like I think quite recently I'm coming back to StepN again. Some background about StepN is that the concept is you can buy a shoe NFT that costs around 1,000 USD. Wearing that shoe NFT, you have like an energy bar that lasts about 10 to 15 minutes, and you need to walk at a particular speed if depending on the type of shoe you bought. And walking gives you a particular token called GST and GMT, which you can then exchange for money with or Solana, and which can then be converted to cash or fiat. So I think the big impact, why this had such a big impact and why it's so trendy right now, is that it motivates people to work out, and that people find the fact that it motivates them as a big enough incentive that even if the project just vanishes tomorrow, it's okay. They still got to work out and they're becoming more healthier. So I think things that incentivize people to do things that are good for themselves, those kind of products is really, really cool. I think Facebook, when it started out, incentivized people to connect with other people and make friends and meet new interesting people. And things like Sandbox and Decentraland and portals right now are still trying to do the same. You you create like your own room. You go to other people's rooms, you go talk to them, you see what kind of room setup they have. It creates whole new ways of interactions that are not just available right now. Other interesting products in this space, I guess there are a lot of DeFi products that are just really, really cool, like Olympus DAO and so on. But yeah, those are not connected to the metaverse. They're just heavily finance focused projects. My favorite would definitely have to be something, it would have to be the Solana chain as a whole, because they solved a lot of the problems that Ethereum had in terms of transaction speeds and transaction costs. And I think that's going to be pretty, that's going to help people like move to a Web3 space that is just very, very similar to normal Web2 interactions. And that's pretty cool.
I see. So, so the applications which are more focused on the things which people use daily, like exercising, using blockchain applications, and using blockchain in metaverse. In your opinion, the applications that you have explained are actually focusing on what the user does daily, and to integrate those applications with their daily behavior, which is making it successful maybe.
Correct. In the end, you make what people want. You find a problem and you try to solve it. And how you solve it doesn't really matter as long as you solve it well.
Yes, correct. Thank you. Any other guests, would you like to speak about some solution that you appreciate?
Just to follow up from what Ajay was saying, actually, it's really, really interesting. The principle is the same in that if there's a problem, that's where you apply. If the technology is a good fit, that is the best place to try and see if it's going to work. But there are differences. There are differences between consumer use of XR and then enterprise or company use of XR. Because the problems they face are different and what is needed and used in both occasions are different. So on a consumer level, I think the National Research Group has recently released a report around the acceptability of XR. And actually it's seeing that most people are owning more headsets, they're trying it out more, but even if they've got a headset, they might use it for maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And so the usage isn't there much further than that, which is quite interesting in itself. Whereas if you've got a really dedicated application for an XR technology, for example, I know in healthcare we use it a lot to train our medical students, to train surgeons, to train wider staff around it. You've got a much wider case and longevity in use of XR in that application. So I think that's a really kind of interesting point. But actually you can think about it through so many different angles based on who that end user is. I know within healthcare, there's quite a few examples where we are seeing a lot of success. So in England, in North Lincolnshire area in England, lung patients have been able to use virtual reality to go through rehab. And what that's meant is that the waiting list we've got for rehabilitation in the area has actually, you've been able to meet that demand by using different types of solutions that provide lung therapy rehab in that way as well. So there is a whole host of, I think, examples across different industries where it's been used quite successful. But the key thing for me is around that user-centered design. Is it the right place to use that type of technology in that particular environment?
I agree that HoloLens may be beneficial for someone in industry to work in the factories rather than someone working at a normal company where they don't need much training, or why would anyone want it? Rather, they may be just comfortable in using some augmented reality application on their phone. Yes, that I think you brought out very good points, that that the problem and the solution is based on the user group as well. Like if the people are ready to buy headset for their own health purposes. And as you said, you saw success in rehabilitation. That's a positive point. Maybe other people are not interested in that, so they may just not adopt that solution. Maybe they will want some other solution. That's a very good point, to see the user as well along with problem and solution. Thank you, Ms. Nisa. Ms. Emily, Mr. Madhvendra, Mr. Emilios, any one of you would like to give your opinion?
Yeah, this is a very interesting product that I've been looking at for a while. I cannot explain it in a technical way that may make sense to you tech junkies, but it's called AR Weave. And to Nisa's point earlier, it actually is trying to solve data storage and decentralization of data storage. So what they've done is it's really like a protocol that allows you to have your data stored permanently and be incentivized for storing your data. And then on top of that, they build a whole layer where basically you can create like global web pages and applications that live forever. So it's a very, very interesting concept. I highly encourage you guys to go look into it. I still cannot wrap my hand fully around the tech, even though I've bought in some of the crypto. So I will say it's super interesting when you think about, I think the key winning thing for me when I look into the future of where Web 3.0 will be is decentralization, and communities and also companies that are really taking decentralization in, like ARWeave, and there's another one called Clearos that's also very interesting, that's actually looking into decentralizing dispute resolution. So when you're interacting with, let's say, a decentralized game or like token, you use this online decentralized form of jury system where vetted people who've signed up to be a part of this system will be part of the conflict resolution. So rather than you going into court and all that stuff, you would apply this new like way of resolving disputes. So all of this plays a lot into DAOs, which are like decentralized autonomous organizations, the success of which I will not comment on, but I think they are very, very interesting. And for me, how this will apply to all the cool tech that's coming out, that for me, I think would be the most interesting. Although that might be when I'm a bit too old to walk. I don't know when that's gonna come, but but to understand that now and see things like that now, that for me is like total Black Mirror, and it just amazes me. Yeah.
That's quite interesting to use a digital platform to solve disputes rather than going to courts. Again, focusing on the problem that the user is facing every day, and then proposing your application, and that's how the application becomes successful. That's quite interesting. Thank you. Mr. Madhvendra, would you like to speak?
Sure. So we were just discussing about this. There is lots of awareness that needs to be created for the metaverse and XR apps. So I believe we are going towards that. There are lots of communities that are there. I have already seen in the chat, Mr. Emilios is posting some VR AR links. So that is a very good community. And these kind of things needs to be highlighted, and the framework about the community to be strengthened. So when this kind of things will happen, then the content creation will happen more towards this metaverse. And when the content creation will happen, the user database will increase, and we will find much more relevant applications. We will find much more relevant knowledge and applications in real life. So currently we are also working in tourism sector. So we have seen a growth in after COVID. We have seen lots of growth in tourism industry, where we propose virtual reality applications, we propose augmented reality applications for virtually visiting any sites, or virtually visiting any place, virtually visiting any culture. So we have seen a growth, and it will be done sooner or later for every industry in metaverse. And I would like to highlight one main point about working in tourism and culture sector. When you create metaverse application, when you create a virtual reality application of any heritage monuments, so we can have a intellectual journey in time and space of a monument. So that is, no one can give you that kind of experience. You cannot see Taj Mahal how it was 1,000 years before. You cannot see Taj Mahal how it will be 1,000 years down the line. So that kind of intellectual journey can be provided using AR and VR only. And user interaction will increase if they are already aware about the intangible culture associated with that monument. How it was 1,000 years before, what was the weather around that monument, how now this has been broken. So digital reconstruction will play a major role in creating that content. So lots of products will be coming up in these heritage and tourism sector. So we have already started working in this, and we have seen a growth in this sector, and this is one of the main product we are focusing on.
The aspect you said, tourism sector, which is seeing a good growth. I think that is very important during pandemic as well, because tourism sector was severely affected around the world, and if such applications come up, where you can only experience some experiences that you cannot experience in real life as well. If you go to the monument, then people will definitely want to use such applications to see the intellectual journey, like how a monument was at the time it was being built to the time it was broken, then again built again, and the whole story. I think it's a very great point, and I think the tourism industry will benefit greatly from it. It's one of the best applications of XR, I guess. That's very good to hear, actually, and I hope that it grows in future more. Thank you, Mr. Madhendra. Mr. Emilios, you have sent many links in the chat, which are very interesting to read. I will go through lots of them, but would you like to speak about one or two important points that you have shared in the chat?
Sure. Can you see my video okay? Is it coming through?
Would you like to share screen?
Your video is okay. Oh, would you like to share screen, Mr. Emilios?
No, it's fine. All good. As long as you can see me okay, yeah?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can see you. I can see you.
Perfect. Yeah, I just thought I'd just run through some, if anyone who just wants to get into AR, VR development, we've just got, just 9 points we can run through quickly. So if you want to get into it, we'd always say number one, start with programming. So, Java, C#, C++, Swift, JavaScript. Have an idea of software development, whether it's web dev, mobile app dev, or game development. And then some sort of general XR knowledge does help, AR, VR, mixed realities. If you have a developer mindset, you want to focus on the XR software development kits. So AR SDKs for mobile platforms like iOS or Android AR Core, AR Kit, AR Foundation, Vuforia, and Wikitude. So that's specifically AR for iOS or Android. And then each VR headset has its own SDK. So Meta has theirs, HTC Vive will have theirs, etc. Number 5, machine learning and computer vision, because XR works on underlying computer vision, algorithms that are abstracted in methods and functions of existing SDKs. So there's a lot of research going on here in terms of optimizing plane searching, depth mapping, occlusion features, etc. And these features can be quite tricky to develop. Okay. If you have a designer mindset, UX design knowledge, because if you are not that interested in making your XR experience look beautiful or brainstorm on how to solve the design problems, you need to be interested in transforming good experience into great XR experience. And by doing that, you need to incorporate interactions. You need to study users. You need to understand where an experience falls short. So we recommend, if that's your passion, then to study UX design first. Understanding topics like interaction design principles, usability design thinking process, storing, telling, human computer interaction, accessibility. Once you're done with UX design, you can then think about how you can apply those design principles to XR. Number 7, 3D modeling and animation. Tools like Blender, Maya, Cinema 4D, they're great for prototyping experiences with animated 3D models and environment designs. And these prototypes, they serve as a good starting point for showing a concept to your potential clients. And if you're interested in both design and development, then you want to look at graphics rendering, okay? So shader programming language like metal shaders, HLSL and GLSL can help developers to customize the look and feel of the models, animation effects and VFX in your XR experiences. And this skill lies at the cross intersection of design and development, okay? And then soft skills, social media. So it's important to work on your portfolio, to build an online presence, to have capacity to try and contribute to open source projects, join AR and VR community groups. And remember, if you don't have a bachelor's degree in computer science, it doesn't matter. Who cares? Learn programming from YouTube, Udemy, Udacity, and you've got thousands of other free platforms. Unity have lots of material, okay? And yeah, so just to run that through again, skills, programming, software development, general XR knowledge, XR SDKs, machine learning and computer vision, UX design knowledge, 3D modeling and animation, graphics rendering and soft skills.
Thank you, Mr. Emilios. It seems that people who would mistaken themselves to think that XR may be just game development. Maybe after going through these points, they will realize that this is a different kind of application development, which is not just games and requires lots of things that you have mentioned, like knowledge of XR, XR, obviously, awareness around relevant social media platforms, which I believe is LinkedIn presently, joining communities, understanding and applying the software principles, software engineering principles, programming skills, computer vision, machine learning, and that will take time, but it's worth the time, and it's really fun to learn about these technologies. But before that,
so I was going to say, that's a good point. When you say time, it's a good question, because how long do you think an absolute novice would require in acquiring the needed skills to get a job in XR? We estimate 6 months of committed learning, okay? And then add another 6 months of applying your learning in a real world project through an internship or a job or an open source project. The more time you spend working on a real project under an organization, the more you sharpen your domain knowledge.
Thank you. And recently, I think from this year, after I will be graduating, sadly, after I will be graduating, there will be a new XR course being introduced in our university, which I could not study. But if I had the chance, then I think that your points, whatever you are saying, I could have studied in that course. But nevertheless, as you said that we must give time, maybe 6 months. And I will take these points seriously, and the audience also who are aiming for this career as well. Thank you. And one question I would like to ask, is there any one product that you think is very useful in this XR space, which we could take inspiration from?
Good question. I think for me personally, I think, you know, if it's remote learning, so whether it's using virtual reality, VR technologies to learn remotely, or whether you're using AR technologies to learn remotely, I just feel like because of the pandemic, a lot of students felt disconnected from their peers, their teachers, and not everyone has friends, a big family network around them. And we spoke to students who were using these technologies who just make them feel good, you know, and didn't make them feel lonely for a period of time. And I think that's what that's a use case that we're passionate about, using AR and VR technologies to improve the learning experience for students.
Thank you, Mr. Emilios, for your insights. And there are a lot of students here, so I believe that they would take inspiration from this and apply to their learning. For all the guests, again, since we are discussing about such points where we can develop ourselves, so it is a voluntary question. If you would like to provide your suggestions for college students and how the space of metaverse and emerging technologies will grow in Asia.
I'm happy to respond to that first. So I think we've talked a lot about metaverse, and it's a concept that's been discussed so much recently, but what is it really? There are so many kind of, you know, I think it was Emilios that mentioned the principles and the layers, but what does it actually mean for the future of how we live, how we work, how we just be? And so I guess my message is, don't be constrained by the boundaries which are being set today. There is so much that can be done. There is obviously a lot of development courses available for those interested in this area. But there's also so much more potential than what we're seeing. There are things and that's really where innovation and transformation comes in. It's seeing what's outside of that box and not being afraid to be constrained by those rules, those principles. There is so much more that can be done, and we probably aren't even touching the tip of it at the moment.
Yeah, no, agreed. And I think I was going to touch on that as well, Nisa. I think one point we realize is, you know, when we receive a requirement from a client, the first thing we have to do is break it down and actually understand, okay, who are we talking to? You know, what's the culture like? What's the mission? Sometimes these technologies may not even be the right technologies to achieve one's mission. You know, there's so much work that needs to go down into understanding what people are trying to achieve. And then once you understand what people are trying to achieve, you then assess the technical requirements and then try to match people who are in accordance to that. Things can change very quickly. And yeah, it's learning and it's emerging. And I think what's important is we've had the pleasure of collaborating with some teams who just have awesome cultures. You know, you've got, whether it's creatives, project managers, technical leads, marketing professionals, just all collaborating, communicating, and accepting of each other's cultures and strengths and weaknesses. And I think that's the beauty. I think these technologies are so complicated. They really require real collaboration. And that's, I think, where the magic happens.
Absolutely. And just to add to that, I think there's the one thing to not forget is that we've mentioned all of these components of potentially what that metaverse might be. We've mentioned XR, Web3, blockchain, NFTs. There's also AI as well. But what's going to happen when they all converge? And so it's in terms of from a student and learning perspective, there is a need to understand the more holistic picture. So what else is there that actually is going to interact with each other that could create even more awesome things?
Yeah. And then if you look at the hyper-connected world, you look at the 8 key technologies, don't you? You look at AR, VR, AI, machine learning, robotics, 3D printing. I've forgotten the other 2. But I know it's 8. But and then that's industry 4.0, isn't it? That's where we're at. So 5G. Sorry, 5G was one, and then there's another.
And that's the topic of our panel as well, Life 4.0, and the theme of our hackathon as well. And that's a very interesting point that you both have mentioned about a holistic experiences, that understanding each type of technology will bring a different dimension of intelligence, or a different dimension of understanding towards understanding, or maybe or different personalities are needed for understanding these different technologies. As we are running out of time, we will just take 3 minutes. So within these 3 minutes, we request all our guests, if they have any other message to give to the students for growth and development in Asia, and message. Just 3 minutes, and after that we'll move to Q&A.
I guess I'll jump in. I mean, best time right now to go get an internship. Do it. Don't hesitate. Like we've all said, the biggest thing we say is, I don't know. So really, you're joining a lot of companies with people trying to solve problems with tech that may not even, or solutions in tech that may not exist yet. So best way to learn, best way to grow is just to go out there and start getting involved. I'm always looking for interns, so hit me up. I'm just kidding if you're in Hong Kong. But no, we give a lot of flexibility, like they said. I think there's no real, I think when you're looking at something so far ahead, age and experience is really just something on a LinkedIn, I guess. It doesn't really say as much to how you can contribute.
Thank you, Miss Emily.
Yeah, I also believe with the Emily's point of view, this is the right time to start your career in XR. Just don't wait. Your university is offering some course, take it. If you want to learn it from YouTube, just do it. And Emilios has already summarized how you can involve in XR development in various phases. And soon, everywhere in an international level, we'll have 5G infrastructure. The cost of the VR equipment are now going down. So people will afford these VR equipment, VR headsets, and AR glasses will become more common. Then the best time is to start now. Start your career in XR right now. Don't be late. So that's my suggestion.
No, agreed. And also as well, we speak to so many students, and we know a lot of students maybe don't necessarily get so much support from their family members who say, these technologies are emerging, and we know students whose family may try and push them to go towards, web or mobile development. We totally understand that. Just try to raise awareness to family members of how these technologies are changing the world. And if this really is your passion and you want to get involved, reach out to hiring managers directly. If you see a job, it's going to be very hard if you're applying for an internship. You don't know how many other people are also trying to apply. Be creative, look at who the hiring manager is, approach them directly. What's the worst that can happen? Personalize it a bit, send them an email, tell them why you want to work with them, what you think's cool about them. You never know. We've seen people have really fantastic opportunities just through being a bit different through their application process. And if you need a support network, we can jump on a call. I'll make 30 minutes available to speak to any students who just want to get into the industries. hello@immersive-search.com.
Thank you very much. I think many people in the audience will definitely try.
Awesome. I'll send it in the chat box. I'll send email in the chat box.
Yes, Mr. Ajay.
Yeah, so to add to all of this, while traditional methods include internships and getting jobs and everything, Web3 right now has this really interesting concept called bounties. Companies around, all companies that build on Web3 just post small tasks that they want people to complete. It doesn't even have to be developer tasks. There are tasks that ask you to make a video or ask people to explain their project to other people and or write about it. So I posted links to Super Team, which is a DAO in India. They're doing a lot of incredible work. You can just join the community or see what bounties they're offering, do the work they ask you to do, and you get paid like 1,000 USD once you're complete. There's also Layer 3, another great bounty collaborating software. You just go on to Layer 3 and you see what bounties you'd like to participate in. There are bounties for beginners to advanced people. You can make dashboards that show how much a particular project's been interacted with. You can write a deep dive on a particular project. There's also people that offer. You can just join Discord communities to that end. You can join a lot of Discord communities, and people offer looking for other people always. I'm looking for an illustrator to help me with my NFT project. So if anybody's interested, I'd love to talk with you. With that in mind, I'm putting in my LinkedIn and Twitter, so you guys can just reach out to me whenever.
That's great. I mean, that's great to hear that that internships are a way, but what I hear from you is that communities release their projects so that people can just dive in and use their own skills to build those projects. That's quite interesting. And thanks for also giving out a small job description to people. Those who will be interested in NFT and blockchain, they will definitely like to reach out from the audience. Now we come to the end of all the questions, and this is an end from my side, and now I pass it to Hans for the Q&A session.
All right, so after this whole panel talk and this whole workshop, we got to know the metaverse and blockchain and NFTs through different industries. For example, the gaming industry, the healthcare industry, and et cetera, et cetera. So now let's move on to the Q&A section where you guys can ask your questions that you want to ask each individual guest or overall who you want to ask. So let's have a short Q&A. You can just type it down in the chat box, or maybe I can start with a question to maybe inspire people's minds. So my question is directed to Miss Emily Ho. You mentioned that your company is a video game company that specializes, that is related to blockchain and gaming, and that you mentioned big gaming companies like Ubisoft is quite skeptical on the whole NFTs and blockchain interactions with their own games, and hardcore gamers like myself are quite skeptical in it. My question is, how would you remove this type of stereotype or stigma of NFTs and blockchain not belonging to games to try and persuade my mind into thinking it should belong to the future of gaming as well? So persuade me, convince me, change my mind. Yeah. That's so.
Oh, you've asked $1 million question, but I think it's quite simple. I mean, firstly, and I don't want to, make a judgment upon how you think about it, but I think definitely how blockchain games have so far been portrayed is not gamer friendly. It's not fair to ask someone to pay $1,000 to buy one NFT and then only 10,000 people can play that game. That's dumb. Second, I think a lot of gameplay experience is simply not gamer friendly. To think about having to, every time you do an action, you have to get on your MetaMask, or when half the community feels like they're more focused on the money they can make rather than the game experience. I don't think that's, really focusing on really fun gameplay. And then 3, well, I'm not quite sure. I think sometimes maybe what the biggest hesitation may be for different people. For me, actually, blockchain and gaming makes the most sense for mainstreamers because we already understand economics, GameFi. And GameFi has always existed without blockchain, not maybe in the same way, but we understand World of Warcraft, and you get your in-game items, you can resell that. There's people reselling accounts on Taobao if you really want it. So the idea of transactions and the time you spend equaling your money earned, I think is something gamers of all people understand already. It's just, I think, the way it's been marketed, the way it's been presented, and then the way till now, many projects for some reason are asking you to first buy out a 10,000 collection of NFTs, and then somehow with the X amount of money made, they're promising a AAA game, which for all of us know that's just BS. So I think once less and less of those happen, because they will weed out, a lot of them, I'm not sure what they're exactly doing. Definitely not on 3 million are they making a AAA game. Once those start to weed out, I think that's when we can really start to change that public perception. And when there will come out, and there's a lot of great games, MMORPGs being developed right now that will incorporate blockchain. I think one cool experience is Six Dragons from Engine, basically like RuneScape, but imagine everything you play and earn there, you can either keep it off chain, so just play because it's fun, or you can connect your wallet and then try to earn that to resell. So who knows? I mean, again, that's a very big feat. It's very difficult to create a League of Legends level game on blockchain right now, but I am confident when that comes out, it will make sense. And then for the average person who's not a faker, you can still be making money. Like, that's not awesome.
So it's all about, how you perceive it, like how you convey your feelings towards it. So it's mostly about promotional strategies and like business strategies, and like
Yes.
How to show it to your customers. So that's a really great answer.
No, and it's totally, to be honest, it's totally the blockchain industry's fault that we've focused so much on hype. That's no excuse. The stuff there is great. It's just how we've presented it. And that's not the gamer's fault, but ours. Yeah.
All right, saying how there hasn't been any questions yet, I think I would like to make a personal question of mine. So I'm someone who's creating social welfare project using the metaverse. The aim is to sort of change and teach a certain portion of the population so that they have better habits, which may perhaps prevent them from leading to poverty. So my question to you is, what tips as a developer of this project should I look after when creating this social network of the metaverse to teach people? Thank you.
That's a very good question. I'm not actually a technical expert, but what I am going to do is have a think about it, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, just so I understand your question again. So how would you, could you write that? Let me write that down. Sorry.
Yeah, I could rephrase it again. So the idea is I'm going to create a metaverse platform that will help educate a certain portion of the population, for example, the elderly, to avoid poverty. So since we're picking the metaverse because it's much more interactive than perhaps a Zoom session, and this is also a better way of helping train people as well.
Okay. What you need to, first of all, you need to understand who the users are.
Yes.
And then you have to basically develop a framework. Hold on, I sent something in the chat. Okay, I've actually I can read a template for you, which could help. So for instance, Here we go. Okay. So if you a step-by-step guide to developing a use case. Okay. So you need to prioritize features for system selectors. Sorry, you need to, use cases can, sorry, this is more solved for enterprise.
That's fine. Any advice?
I'm going to need, I'm going to need to come back to you on that.
All right, take your time. Thank you.
I was going to say, would anyone else be able to help me with that?
Hi, Anand. So can I repeat your question? Correct me if
Yeah.
I'm.
Yeah, the
Thank
idea
you, man.
is what tips can you give to a developer who's creating a sort of platform, a metaverse platform that will aid people in fixing their behaviors, teaching them what they should do, what they shouldn't do. For example, like avoiding poverty is an example.
So I mean, who is your target audience? So
The
you
target
want
audience, let's say it's the elderly.
elders.
Yes.
So when you say you want to create a platform to actually create awareness for the people, so they can create a platform where they can learn.
Yes.
Something like that? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So for this, ideally, you should focus on the target group. Then when you're talking about the elder people, they doesn't want to wear headsets. So the virtual reality rules out. So you have an option to create either web-based VR or an augmented reality application or a mixed reality application for some of the elders when you have AR glasses and all. And once you decide your platform, let's say you decided to go with AR, then you need to create the complete how will that platform framework, how will you onboard any user on your platform on your application, and how will that application will perform. That's how you can. And once you have that, once you've decided to go with AR, and once you have the landing pages, and once you have the wireframe, how will you go about the augmented reality app? Then you can focus on the content. So let's say your focus group is elder people with you want to create awareness about poverty. So people who are below certain income, so you can create awareness program, content about awareness, how they can earn money, how can they get to learn about other I mean something like that. I'm not aware of the content yet, so that's how you can proceed as a developer.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I think if there are no more questions, we request all the audience to stay and the guests to stay so that we can take a group photo. So Hans, could you please unshare the screen?
Oh yeah, let me just unshare the screen. Sorry for the bad mic. Yeah, let me just unshare my screen. Anaf, do you have permission to screenshot us?
Just you want me to take a screenshot?
Before that,
everyone's cameras.
Guests, please open your camera.
Gotcha.
So that we can take a photo. Guest
participants.
Audience.
Yeah.
Audience, could you please show your face so that we can take a photo? Please don't be shy.
If you want, yeah. We'll give them like
2 minutes.
No, like a few seconds, man.
Fair enough.
Like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yo, Anaf, you can screenshot it and tell us when you screenshot. Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Cheers. All right, done.
All right. Thank you very much for joining this panel talk and this workshop. So the participants, if you have any, let me just do a quick announcement. Participants, today is the deadline of the proposal, the 1-page proposal, and I hope you submit it by 11:59 p.m. But first of all, I need to give my thanks and my gratitude to the guests of today, all 5 of you. Thank you very much for opening our minds into this new technology called the Metaverse and blockchain and NFTs. It's a really it's an interesting subject for everyone to know. But thank you very much, everyone, for attending today's panel talk. If there's any questions, we will stay here in the room as well. So, Sweta, do you have anything to add on?
I just have gratitude. Thank you, guests, for accepting in the first place to come into the panel and give your useful insights and clarify lots of concepts for which we were confused. So lots of things have been clarified, and thank you for giving your valuable time. And I personally enjoyed this, and I hope we all enjoyed this and had a good interaction in the chats as well. So thank you, guests. And this is the end of our panel discussion. So guests, if you would like to stay back, you may, or you are feel free to leave this Zoom room.